Have you ever walked into work feeling pumped only to have your energy drained by a boss who seems to kill the morale in the workplace without ever realizing it? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The top 5 leadership skills that drain morale and kill morale in the workplace. Let's get into it. In 1925, there was a psychiatrist born named William Glasser. William Glasser was a psychiatrist that developed a framework titled choice theory. In that framework, that psychological framework, he believed that all human behavior was driven by the choices that they make. Now, the 5 basic choices that all humans have, he believed, were survival, love and relationships, freedom, fun, and a sense of empowerment or feeling empowered. Now, that leads me to the number 1 leadership trait that's killing morale in the workplace, and that's going to be micromanagement. Now, micromanagement is going to be when you have that leader that comes in and they have their hand in everything that you're doing. They're checking your emails, they're helping you create your to-do list for the day, they're asking questions constantly, they're sending you emails multiple times a day. Hey, Johnny, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you double check X, Y, and Z? It almost kind of makes you feel incompetent. And what William Glasser would say is that this person or this employee eventually would lose a sense of power that 1 out of the 5 basic needs for humans, basic survival, which is the sense of power. If they lose that sense of empowerment because they're being micromanaged, some of the outcomes that might manifest itself could be disengagement, rebellion, resentment, or just what we might call disengaging behaviors. Now, one of those disengaging behaviors might manifest itself in outright conflict, right? Straight confrontation. They might get confrontational, and ultimately what happens is it leads to the subpar or service for the end customer, the client. They get the short end of the stick because you have a leader that is micromanaging and taking away that sense of empowerment for that employee. So that's going to be number 1, is going to be micromanaging. Number 2 is going to be the direct opposite of number 1, where you have the micromanager. Number 2, you're going to have the laissez-faire leader, right? The leader that's hands off. You don't even know that they're your leader. You don't see them. You don't hear from them very often. You might hear from them once a month. They don't provide much supervision or feedback or guidance or support. They're just very non-existent. They take other extreme from being all on you and in your business, micromanaging you, asking you to do every meaningful task and knowing your ins and outs and checking your emails and things of that nature, to you don't even hear from this leader. You don't even know that they exist, right? I've seen some people come into work, they might say, I don't even know who my supervisor is. They might feel like that, right? They might have never seen them. That's a big problem if you've never seen your supervisor or whoever your manager is, because they're taking this approach. Ultimately, it can lead you to feeling insignificant and ultimately could lead to the very worst case scenario, turnover, burnout, where you lose the employee, which is what we don't want to do. So that's number 2. Number 3, the third trait, leadership trait that's killing morale, from my opinion, is failure to provide recognition and feedback for your employees. Feedback is essential. It's necessary, not only in a negative way, which you almost don't have to speak on that. They kind of do that automatically, but positive feedback is essential as well, because when you provide positive feedback and recognition, you're acknowledging to the employee, I see you, I acknowledge your hard work, and I want you to have that sense of belonging, that sense of appreciation, things of that nature. So you want to make sure not only do you provide the negative feedback, but also the positive feedback when it's warranted. You want to make sure it's balanced. You don't want to provide too much negative feedback without enough positive feedback as well, because you're going to create that sense of empowerment for the employee, and ultimately you're more likely, in my opinion, to bring morale up, and which is the opposite of when you have too much negativity, too much negative recognition, when you will bring morale down. And you can see things such as absenteeism, people calling out, people saying they're sick when they're not sick, people staying home. I mean, we all probably have done it at some point in our time. But when you place that priority or that focus on positive that your employees are doing as well, as much as you do the negativity, then it kind of balances itself out. So you want to make sure you also place emphasis on when your employees are doing good things, and you want to make sure you recognize them for that as well, to help keep that morale up. So that's number 3. The 4th leadership trait that's killing morale, in my opinion, is going to be poor communication. And I can't emphasize this enough. How you communicate says a lot about you as a leader. So So the biggest thing I want to kind of get to is what I like to call defensive communication. When you're meeting with your leaders and your supervisors, your managers, and the conversation is very defensive, you as the employee being defensive and the superior or the manager or the supervisor being defensive, where it's almost like a tit for tat, a back and forth type of thing. It's like, oh, well, how come this wasn't done? Oh, because you didn't, an employee might say, oh, well, because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Supervisor, no, because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like a back and forth defensive thing, almost like passing responsibility from me to you and you to me and back and forth. It's like a circular reasoning type of thing, and no solutions get reached. It can get very confrontational, very contentious, very me versus you or me versus them, us versus them type of mentality. And it's not very conducive to the organization, and it stifles productivity, also lead to low morale, employees feeling like they're not supported, they're not respected in the workplace, and they're not an individual that's seen as just being a number. So you want to make sure that as a leader, you want to make sure you're not doing that. You want to make sure you are having positive communication or active communication with your employees. You want to make sure you're in tune with them. You want to know what's going on with them daily. I know John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors, he says that everything rises and falls on the backs of leadership. The success of your company, your organization is only going to go as far as your leadership skills, right? So if you want your organization, your company to grow and get better, be more productive, things of that nature, then you have to become better as a leader. And part of that is going to be proactive communication is what I will call it. So that would be number 4. Number 5 is going to be, you've guessed it, the toxic or abusive leadership trait. So this is going to be the leader that thinks the best time to address an issue with an employee is in the staff meeting, right? They might call you out and say, hey, Johnny, how come you didn't get this assignment done or this job that I gave you last week? How come you didn't get it done? And they might call you out in front of everybody. So they tend to try to bully or humiliate you in front of everybody to make a point. But ultimately what they're doing is they're driving that morale down, and it looks bad on the company. And it also makes employees second guess coming to work for you when you do things like that. So it's better to praise an employee in public and critique them in private. So if you have an issue and you want to keep that employee or you want to drive that morale through the roof and keep the company moving forward, if you have an issue with the employee, call them in private, call them into your office, have a sit down, sort of a meeting of the minds, and let them know, hey, this is what the expectation, you didn't meet the expectation. What can we do collectively to get you to where you need to be? And then you want to provide as much support and help and options and resources as you can to make sure that individual or that employee is successful. And it also, when you do things like that, what you're conveying is that I respect you, I see you as a person, and you're not in this alone. I'm going to come alongside you, help you be successful. And so those are the leaders you want to work for, right? Those are the ones you want to run through a brick wall for. So those are the top 5 leadership traits that's killing morale in the workplace. Now, if you have another leadership trait that I missed or that you think might be pertinent, go ahead and mention it down below in the comment. If you made it to this far in the video, I want to thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, go ahead and click right here on my other video where I talked about why case management is necessary. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.